Have you ever tried to convince someone else that they were the problem while you were miserable the entire time and they were living their best life? I was the product of a belief system that said, you don't matter unless you struggle. Was the struggle really spiritual, or was I avoiding a higher frequency out of habit and fear? And that invited higher level partners, clients, and mentors. I stopped tracing failure and I started creating success. Welcome to the High Vibe Shift, the show that helps entrepreneurs align their mindset, energy, and systems for unstoppable growth. I'm Anthony Enning, and if you're ready to reprogram your unconscious mind and raise your vibe, you're in the right place. If you're watching this video right now and you're an entrepreneur or a forward thinker, you're about to discover the one frequency shift that transformed me from being an Uber driver ignored by my own college classmates to making over 6 figures in a month as a real estate agent. And here's what Einstein never told you about his famous quote. You know, the one about not being able to solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them. Well, what he really meant was we cannot solve problems with the same frequency that created them. And today, I'm going to show you the exact tool I used to shift my frequency and how you can use it to elevate your life beyond anything you've ever experienced before. Today, I'm getting really vulnerable, y'all. I'm sharing my full origin story from invisible engineer to getting recognized as one of the Houston Association of Realtors top 20 under 40, building my own brokerage and living out my highest alignment. This isn't about luck or hustle or a magic formula. It's about living proof of what frequency, faith, and radical reframing can do. From day one, the world drilled the frequency of scarcity into my bones. Work harder, fight for scraps, always be grateful, even for the struggle. I carried that belief well into adulthood, into every room, every job, every relationship. I believed the only way forward was to go against the grain, even when it sank me. Look, have you ever tried to succeed despite failing for multiple years? That was me in college. I went to college with the ambition of being an engineer, and not just any engineer, y'all. I wanted to be a petroleum engineer. At the time, that was the highest paid profession that I could see as an engineer, and the recruiting was heavy, y'all. They came to our high school. I won an award. I even got a scholarship. So it was a no-brainer for me when I was trying to pick my major on what profession I was going to go into. I knew I wanted to be an engineer and I knew I wanted to make tons of money. So I decided to become a petroleum engineer. Only issue was I had no experience with oil and gas in any capacity whatsoever, outside of the petroleum jelly I used to use as lotion as a kid. So when I went into school, I struggled. And I don't just mean struggle like I just did bad for a semester or two. I struggled my entire college career. And the entire time, I consistently asked the same question: why am I being punished? And I saw it as punishment because I did all the things that I was told to do. They said, study, I studied. They said, have your faith, I went to church every Sunday. And this isn't to blame church or poor study habits on my failures, but it is to point out that a lot of times we think that we're getting ahead by doing the things that other people tell us to do. Yet the whole time, there's an entire universe out there that we don't even entertain due to our own limited way of thinking. And how did I break past years of thinking like this? We'll talk about it more as we get along in this video, because the honest truth is, this is really where it starts to get really deep. See, scarcity isn't just a mindset, it's an energetic imprint. You see, we're born into this world of endless abundance. Nature doesn't compete, it collaborates. Energy moves where it's most aligned. But when you operate outside of your truth, you block that flow. My journey was one long lesson in what happens when you fight your own soul and mistake suffering for progress. And it didn't just stop with school. right? Have you ever been in a relationship, right, that just wasn't successful? Have you ever tried to convince someone else that they were the problem while you were miserable the entire time and they were living their best life? That was me. I wondered why all of these years I seemed to have a great time until it would abruptly end, not due to anything that I could see with my own vision. I was too busy living in a completely different dimension where when you do the right things, then the right things will happen to you, not taking into account that the universe is always testing you, always trying to bring the best out of you by providing you with multiple scenarios for you to improve your life. And if you just ignore them as, well, that's not a situation that I need to face, well, guess what? You are in for a very rough road. Because, see, I actually carry this mentality not just from school, not just in young, immature relationships, but also into the workplace. You see, I was working 60 plus hours in a career that wasn't even paying me close to what I was worth, let alone was it validating my self worth as an individual because I was consistently clocking in, doing my best to show out and be the best version of myself at this job. However, I was consistently passed for raises, consistently passed for bonuses. And at the very end of my career in engineering, I actually was making less than when I first started. I don't know how to describe it other than the universe will consistently give you the same test in multiple different ways until you actually learn the lesson. And the tools that I'm going to share with y'all today are going to help you to elevate your life to where you are finding these types of situations and eradicating them from your life permanently. So, let me tell you about the night that changed everything. It wasn't a big revelation, but it was a moment of invisibility. You see, I was, as the kids say, down bad. I was super broke. I was in a relationship, but I was struggling to maintain myself financially due to the decisions that I had made that led me there. Now, I decided as I was out of all money that I was just going to start driving for Uber. One night, I just got up, got into my Saturn Ion, and I downloaded the app. I applied. They instantly approved me. I don't know how that happened. And I was driving for Uber, y'all. Drove that entire evening. I left my house at 10 o'clock. I didn't show up again until like 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, probably closer to 9 after the rush hour. And that was a decision that led me down a series of events that got me to this one night. See, as I was driving for Uber, I was picking up strangers to pay the bills. I pulled up one night to downtown Houston. I realized that my next ride was actually one of my classmates from engineering school. We'll just call him Sarah. Sarah, who used to dream with me about changing the world, slid into the back seat, talking plans, promotions, and investments with two of their coworkers. She never even recognized me. I was present, but not visible. I was the product of a belief system that said, you don't matter unless you struggle. Now, that night got a little bit uglier because I was so happy to see Sarah that I said, "Hey, how's it going, Sarah? Remember me from school?" To which they responded, "No." Now, by the way, as an Uber driver, I understand sometimes the drivers might talk a little bit too much or they might be a little bit delusional. So I actually took off my ring, my Aggie ring, and I gave it to them. Now, everybody who goes to the Texas A&M University, like 90% of y'all get a ring. It's called the Aggie ring, and that Aggie ring is something that you wear for the rest of your life, just to commemorate your alma mater and your experiences that you had there. Now, I took off my ring and I said, "Hey, doesn't this ring a doorbell?" Now, mind you, I'm also one of like 5 black men in that entire program of like over 100 something people. So I was not an easy person to forget, especially with the fact that I do know this person on a personal level and we've had multiple conversations. Well, they looked to me and said, I have no idea who you are. And I had to accept the fact that this person was embarrassed to associate themselves with me. And that ride felt like a mirror, one that I couldn't look away from. You see, at that point, I had a huge ego shattering. For the first time, I questioned if the path that I was following was ever designed for me. Was the struggle really spiritual, or was I avoiding a higher frequency out of habit and fear? Now, mind you, coming from the engineering field, going into entrepreneurship, I faced a lot of obstacles, mostly mental. And a lot of them were, I want to say, from the people that I love the most. However, they were honestly just deeper reflections of doubts that I had internally. And those doubts were accelerating at a very high rate because I realized that nobody was going to lift me up and take me to that higher level that I always wanted to be at. Nobody was going to say, hey, I saw that you work so hard and I would love to have somebody like you as a coworker or to have somebody like you on my team or anything of that nature. So I had to ask myself, what was I doing this for? What was I really trying to get out of this whole entrepreneurial journey if the people that I even know or knew prior to me getting into this don't even want to associate themselves with me? Am I a failure? So that night, I just drove. I wasn't making any money. I turned it off and I just drove. I needed to be alone with my thoughts. I was fighting back tears, but in the silence, the real question started to surface. Is my pain information or identity? Could the frequency of my life actually be a choice and not a destiny? I was tired of the pity parties. I didn't want anybody to see my tears, not even myself. I knew that my life was worth more than just having a small conversation with somebody I hadn't spoke to in over half a decade. I sat alone, praying, meditating, asking God for guidance. And for the first time, I felt something shift. The seed of a new belief was looking for life in me. It needed that light. What happened next was a period of deep searching. I researched everything, y'all. Quantum physics, ancient texts, entrepreneurial psychology. The same message echoed across every single time. Everything is energy, and you get what frequency you broadcast. I started experimenting. Instead of calculating how to just scrape by, I visualized what abundance might feel like. I journaled the version of myself that operated from overflow, not panic. I meditated. I grounded in gratitude for the smallest wins, seeing flexibility as a gift and not a burden. See, the biggest realization I had, abundance wasn't just available, it was my birthright. See, scarcity was the static, but abundance was the true signal. Frequency training became my daily discipline. I set energetic intentions every morning. When anxiety crept in, I asked, what does the highest version of myself choose right now? In business, I shifted my focus from chasing deals to serving people. I began embodying the leader, the creator, the visionary, even when evidence lagged behind. Science confirmed what my soul was practicing. When you vibrate at an intention, mirror neurons activate new networks, making you magnetic to aligned opportunities. The old frequency was fight or flight, but the new frequency was faith. I needed to trust in myself and I needed to trust in the flow. I needed to stop giving energy to fear and start pouring it into love and abundance. Now, how did I make this shift practical? Honestly, I'm going to share with you my 3-step process that really helped to change the game for everything. It's called extreme reframing. And here's how you master it. The first thing that you want to do is you want to name the problem with neutrality. Drop the drama. Don't start getting emotional. Just get factual. You lost the deal. All right, cool. You didn't get the response. All right, cool. Remove the emotion and all the self blame. The next thing you want to do is you want to own your frequency. Ask, how am I showing up? Is my energy rooted in desperation, fear, self doubt, or in clarity, openness, and truth? And take responsibility for your energetic stance. Last, you want to reframe from a higher elevation. You want to challenge your default lens. How is this obstacle an opportunity for skill upgrade? And how does this setback redirect me? See, you want to turn complaints into commands for growth. You have a difficult client? Look at it neutrally. They're expressing dissatisfaction. You want to analyze the frequency that it's on, right? Was I defending, shrinking, or serving, right? You want to reframe that. And you want to use their feedback as a compass to evolve your service. Now, mind you, I completely understand that not every client's complaints are grounded in truth, are grounded in something to improve you. Some people just want to complain. Now, what the beauty of this is that it allows you to not only look at the problem neutrally, but also to look at yourself neutrally. Because if you genuinely wouldn't want to work with somebody like that, even if they were in a good mood, then I think you have your answer, right? You have all the tools that you need now to put up that wall. Because honestly, it's your business, it's your client that you decided to take on. Why would you do that to yourself if you know what the result is going to be? You want to separate the call for you to evolve your service into something that can better suit the world from people who are just genuinely unhappy in life that you can never make happy. Okay. Now that we have those caveats out of the way, I want you to practice these steps daily. So, what if you commit to frequency mastery? Well, here's my story. See, after a year of applying this, everything changed. Now, mind you, when I was in my car driving Uber with my classmate in the background, this was late 2019. You can only imagine what happened a couple months after that. And although I had the opportunity to panic and feel like my world was crumbling, I decided to do something completely different. I decided to actually implement what I'm telling you to do right now. And this is what caused a world of difference in my life. After a year of applying this, everything changed. My real estate deals multiplied, not because the world got easier, but because my frequency got higher, and that invited higher level partners, clients, and mentors. I stopped tracing failure and I started creating success. You see, my impact grew. My brokerage, I opened it finally, and my recognition followed. I became HAR's top 20 under 40, giving me opportunities for coaching and speaking and so many different opportunities. But more important than any award was the feeling inside, that sovereignty, that clarity, that peace, that unshakable knowing that I wasn't surviving, I was leading. I was building community as a conduit for wisdom, abundance, and spiritual alignment. See, hundreds of clients, colleagues, and friends have transformed using these same frequency principles. Opportunities that seemed impossible now show up as natural consequences of energetic commitment. And here's what I ask you to imagine. What if your greatest struggle is right now waiting to be reinterpreted as your greatest credential? What if your invisible moments are the classroom for your next breakthrough? What if you are only one vibrational step away from activating your own abundance story? Not years from now, but today. This is what it looks like to live an origin story in real time, from struggle through awakening into growth and evidence. My hope is not just that you're inspired, but that you know that this blueprint is available for you. The highest frequency is not reserved for the few, it's the inheritance of everyone willing to embrace faith, surrender, and radical reframing. If you're ready to rewrite your own story, go into your own shift, join the High Vibe community, practice the 3 step process in real time, reach out, surround yourself with elevation, discuss with others, experiment, fail, and reinforce because evolution loves experimentation. And before you go, remember the richest place on earth is the cemetery, not the bank. Do not die with the music inside of you. This is Anthony, and remember, raise your vibe, raise your income. This is the High Vibe Shift. Thanks for tuning in to the High Vibe Shift. If this episode raised your frequency, share it with someone who needs the shift too. And remember, raise your vibe, raise your income.